Hi, I'm Sally Nelson, and I've lived in the city of Burien for 50 years, a very long time. The city of Burien voted to become a city, the citizens did, and when that happened, we needed a governing body. So I decided, because of my long interest in politics and all things political, that I would run for the Burien City Council. It was a exciting time, an interesting time. I was honored to have won and be a voice for the vision and mission that I shared with our community. I served 16 years on the Burien City Council. I was the first deputy mayor and mayor for 2 years and retired after those years in 2009. I continued to be a community activist, engaged in my city. I'm currently on the Burien Actor Theater Board and was a member of the Highline Heritage Museum Board when they first began to think about creating a museum in Burien. Now, let's go to some of the stories, some of the experiences that shaped my life and helped create the person I am.
Share early memories of your parents and childhood.
I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. My father, Joan Black, was a very strong person who was an advocate for social justice, a labor organizer. Remember, Detroit was very much an industrial city. My mom was a strong woman, a compassionate woman, a literature major, a teacher and educator, and a great mentor for me, as was my father. So I grew up in the city, and there's a brief story I want to share with you about a hat. And that was my hat, an Easter hat, when I was just 5 years old. And there was some kind of a bully in the neighborhood. She grabbed my hat and ran away with it. And I came tearing home and explained to my parents they had to get my hat back. I always remember, almost in unison, my mom and dad looked at me and said, "No, Sally, you have to get your hat back." I was terrified because I wasn't sure I could do that. They assured me they'd watch me walk across the street, knock on the door, and ask for my hat back. That, of course, happened. I came home, I felt, wow, I did something I didn't think I could do. And that's because my parents reassured me that I could do that. So I found a strength in that, even as a little girl. And then I'm going to fast forward to when I was about 5 years older, a snake story. So we had a very robust science teacher who loved reptiles. And every weekend we would take a pet home. I wanted to take a snake home. He said, "No, girls don't take snake home." And the boys in the class all said, "That's right, you can take a different pet." So I protested, but it did me no good. I came home and said to my mom and dad, gosh, I told them the story. They said, "We'll write you a note. Go back and get the snake." So I did that. And those are two stories I remember where my parents were so supportive of me and helped me understand, by being persistent and not taking no for an answer, with their support, it made a difference.
Describe a personal event that had an impact on you.
A personal event that had an impact on me and was very near and dear to my heart because it involved my father, Joan Black, who had advocated for and helped create a school in the ghetto in Detroit for boys who'd run afoul of the law. It was a different school. It was small in size. The staff was extremely creative. And the notion here was they could that school could be a change maker for children who were in trouble. There were race riots in Detroit in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. And when there was one of those riots, it was near the school, the Ellis School my father had helped develop. The police called him and asked him to come down to see if he could help um, in any way quell the disturbances. When he got there, this is amazing. The school was surrounded by the community members, the parents whose boys went to that school, by the community itself because it was a 24-hour school, a school that was a part of their community, established with their help, and meant a great deal to them. So a human shield of people holding hands surrounded the school and prevented any vandalism happening there. Why is that important to me? Because it taught me the power of an idea, the notion that you could create an idea, navigate the status quo, and make a difference in a positive way. That happened at the Ellis School. The outcomes were very promising. And the power of one person together with the community to affect change for the good was very, very important to me.
Who are your role models?
Role models. There's so many women who came before us who we admire because they led the way that opened opportunities for all of us. But I'm going to go back to Rosa Parks, one of my most revered, strong women, who at the age of 42, riding on a public bus in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, seated comfortably in the place designated for Blacks only, she was asked to move to the back of the bus because there were white people on the bus who needed a seat. Rosa Parks crossed her arms and said, "I'm not moving. I'm not going to give up my seat." Subsequently, the bus driver called the police. They removed her from the bus. But the outcome of this is a good one. After almost a year of boycott by the Black community in Montgomery, boycotting the buses, it went to court, and the court ruled that discrimination on public transit was illegal. So it had a happy ending. And I always remember her quote when she said, "All I was trying to do was get home from work after a long day." Another one of my favorite women, I'm sure you all know of her, is Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady, who is an incredibly brilliant and thoughtful woman who was a feminist in every way you can imagine. One of my favorite stories about her was she was a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, a fairly conservative group of women. When she heard that they refused to allow the amazing Black singer, Marian Anderson, sing in Constitution Hall because she was Black, Eleanor Roosevelt had the courage to publicly leave that organization and arrange for Marian Anderson to sing outside in front of the Lincoln Memorial. What a role model she was. What a strength she possessed to do that. And I'm going to quote something I think that is just beautiful. She said, "My battle for the rights of women is a long-standing one, and none of us should ever do anything to undermine that effort." Finally, Anita Hill. You likely all remember Anita Hill, who in 1991 was asked to come and testify about Clarence Thomas, who had been appointed to be a Supreme Court justice. She wanted to be on the committee to talk about the sexual harassment she endured while he was her boss. I remember watching those committee meetings and feeling so angry because she was maligned, she was dismissed, and she was a very elegant, honest, forthright person who was telling a story that was incredibly difficult for her to tell. Ultimately, she lost that effort to keep him from being appointed. He was appointed, but I've always admired her for her strength and her ability to come forward under circumstances that were personally difficult for her. A remarkable woman, and she's one of my favorite.
In what ways did your family influence your interests in politics?
Well, in addition to encouraging and supporting me in every way they could, They also imbued in me a sense of values, of purpose that I still carry with me. I think that quality of internal sense of who you are and what matters and what purpose you serve in your family and your community and your nation was a gift that I treasure. They always said, Sally, practice love. And I understood that. What did that mean for me? It meant being empathetic. It meant helping those who needed help. So they fostered that sense of responsibility to me. Also the importance of community, of connection, of being helpful and supportive of your neighbors, your friends, your community, and your nation. The final thing I think they imbued me with was a sense of acting for social justice, for equality in race relations, in gender relations, for civil liberties union. I remember issues around civil liberties, freedom of speech. I remember the McCarthy hearings, which my father protested hugely when there was this disquieting effort on the part of McCarthy to identify and chastise and jail people who he accused of being communists. It was about breaking barriers and not taking no for an answer. So I think those combined things of purpose, of values, of living those was a great gift my parents shared with me. And I'll always be grateful for that.
Share about a community organizing effort that you helped lead.
Yes, well, most of you probably know the Seahurst Park in Burien, the pristine area that is all along the waterfront. That park would not be there if it were not for the pressure Burien citizens in the neighborhood of Hurstwood created to push back on the effort for a marina to be there. Here's why. Hurstwood, the community of Hurstwood, owned that waterfront park, and we decided we'd sell it to create money to fund underground wiring in our community. That was a good idea, but it was not a good idea to have it be sold to the highest bidder, which happened to be a marina development corporation. We were offered also, in addition to that corporation, an opportunity to sell it to King County to maintain it as a park. I helped organize the community of Hurstwood and other members in the area, in the region actually, to maintain the pristine beauty of that area and not to turn it into a polluting, noisy marina. It took a long time, a lot of community meetings, a lot of pushback, but we prevailed. And so now that beautiful public park belongs to all of us. I'm so proud of that.
Describe one professional experience you're most proud of.
My first teaching assignment was in Kansas City, Missouri. And I was a young, just graduated student, and I was assigned to a Black school in a ghetto in Kansas City, to a fourth grade group of children who were just wonderful. They were all Black. The school teachers were all white. The administration was all white. After being there a few days and then weeks, I realized we didn't have the resources other schools in the district had. We lacked textbooks. We didn't have enough papers. There was no library, no opportunity for the children to take a field trip. And so I thought, you know what? We are being discriminated against because of the school population. So I began to wonder how I could change that. My children deserve the same opportunity as white children in Kansas City. So I just got the parents together after school. We talked about letter writing, about my concerns. They decided they would write letters, have their children bring them to me, and I would take them to the principal and advocate for a change that equaled the resources other schools had. The parents came to community meetings, they came to the PTA, and together we effected change. I can tell you, I remember as a young teacher needing the income, when I went to see the principal who gave me this kind of body language about what is it that you want to change, I remember saying to him, I need your help to do this, and describing what I felt were major concerns about discrimination. It took weeks and months, but eventually we did begin to get more textbooks, more papers. And so there was a change that I helped create. Um, and I learned that problem solving, knowing the problem, gathering people around you who could be effective in helping create the change was a lesson that I've learned that was very daunting in many ways. But I learned to be strong from that, and it worked.
What major changes happened in Burien during your 16 years on the city council?
Oh gosh, there were so many. So the city you see now took about 27 years to create. Why? Because in 1992, Burien was a little backwater town. Remember, there was no Main Street, no City Hall, no downtown park. Most of the buildings were shuttered, businesses were closed because South Center had really sucked the wind, the economic wind out of our fair city. Old Burien, which is a very vibrant little area of our business district, had one business open. So it was a grim place. The city council had a lot of work to do, and we had to be change makers. The most important thing we wanted to do was create a strong, how would I say, a foundation for our new city so it could grow economically, so it would be inclusive, so it would have a vibrancy about it lacked now. And of course, we thought a downtown, the centerpiece would be a park. Now you see the park, a place for gathering, a place for families, a place for our farmers market. So many changes, but not without contention. For example, the 2-lane highway you see now on 152nd used to be a 4-lane major highway going from Ambom east to First Avenue. There was a lot of pushback about making it 2 lanes. The businesses were concerned it would ruin business. But we felt, and the community agreed, it would create a walkability and shopping experience that it lacked at the moment. There's also the terrible pushback against annexing North Highline. Partly, I think it was based on the notion that North Highline was kind of not equal to the people of Burien. It was a largely minority community, but we prevailed and annexed North Highline, which has made a wonderful addition to our community. So there were huge changes. We developed a park, we improved our streets, our sidewalks, and community policing became, for me, one of the most urgent areas of policy change. So major changes, all to the good. But our work is never done. We still have a lot to do. And if we continue to work together and listen to each other and be respectful, we can move forward in a positive way.
Describe a daunting leadership experience.
Okay, a daunting leadership experience. I'm going to go back a number of years when I was just a young woman on the Burien City Council, keenly interested in public safety issues, and decided that I want to become a member of the Public Safety and Crime Prevention Committee for the National League of Cities. That was a very sought after position. It was popular. Public safety, after all, took about 80% of all our budgets. I was appointed to the committee, and when I walked in this huge room, I was overwhelmed because maybe there were 4 or 5 women on the committee. The rest were mostly white males, many of them firefighters and police. It was chilling in a way because I really wanted to be on that committee and wanted to contribute my ideas to the committee. So I wondered how I could navigate that. How can I do that? Well, I decided I had a clear goal. I would join every little subcommittee. I'd write letters. I'd talk. I'd work with the men on the committee who were very thoughtful in most cases and listen. It took me 4 years of hard work. And I remember one of the things I did was advocate for removing the word alien in the illegal alien policy we were writing. That had a lot of pushback, but I prevailed. And I think the men and the few women on the committee appreciated my strong effort to be a change maker in a positive way. So 5 years later, I became the vice chair, and then I became the chair of that committee. That was a daunting experience, but it imbued in me the strength of keeping your eye on the prize, never letting it go, and remembering that it was the right thing to do at the time.
How has the role of women in the political landscape changed over your lifetime?
Wow, a lot, as we all know. I mean, if you just think about the male professions, they were dominated by males: law, medicine, science, the military, athletics, and of course, politics. There's a sea change now. More women are taking those roles, are being leaders in those areas. Think, for example, of Kamala Harris, our new first female Black vice president. However, there's much work to do. Remember that the Congress passed the Equal Rights Amendment, what, 39 years ago? And what that law says is equity under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. We still have that to enshrine in our Constitution. Also, the gender gap in wages between men and women is enormous. It continues to be. So there are persistent challenges we have as women, but we have made a lot of progress with the help of leaders like Kamala Harris and many women who are unknown to us, like all the women we're finding out about now, who were hired secretly to work during World War II, made unbelievable contributions to our safety, and are just now being recognized. So carry on, women. We have work to do, but we've achieved a lot.
What advice do you have for young women interested in politics?
Well, we need more women in every branch of political activity, including staffing in cities and for congressmen and senators. Listen, learn, jump in, don't be afraid. Volunteer, seek mentors. Mentors can be very helpful to you in navigating the world, and in politics particularly, because you can learn and listen from the role models they bring to you. Read a lot, learn what the issues are, volunteer with a political party if you feel comfortable doing that. Be persistent and do the right thing. Be the right thing. Finally, don't be discouraged. Always keep your eye on the flag or on the prize. The flag, too, is a good idea. And be involved in every way you can. I'm going to quote Okonono, who said, "Be yourself, love yourself, and give that love to the world." Take care.